Wait, before we start this lesson, let me give you a quick study tip, and that is study project integration management last. Yes, it's only natural. There are 13 major chapters in the PMBOK guide, and we just want to go through them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 13. But chapter 4 is different. Chapter 4 integrates everything that you have learned and know and studied from chapters 5 to 13 into a nice package. So what you want to do really is skip chapter 4, go through 5 through 13 first, get a good grip of what we're doing there, and then come back to chapter 4. But since you have already started playing this lesson, keep watching it. Watch chapter 4.0, watch this lesson right here so you get a basic understanding of what project integration management is all about, but then skip the rest of the lessons for this module and go straight to 5, and then when you're done with 13, come back and watch all of module 4 again. And now, let's start the lesson.
Welcome to the Project Management Prepcast, the direct route to PMP exam success. Here's your instructor, Cornelius Fichtner.
Hello and welcome to the Project Management Prepcast. The future of PMP exam preparation is already in your hands. I'm your instructor, Cornelius Fichtner. Today's lesson is an overview of the Project Integration Management knowledge area. We look at why we have it, what we do, and the concepts that you must know for your PMP exam. In this lesson, we will concentrate on the integrative nature of project management, look at the processes of project integration management, delve a little bit into the project charter, and we also discuss integrated change control. Let's start out with a definition. Project integration management includes the processes and activities to identify, define, combine, unify and coordinate the various processes and project management activities within the project management process groups. What does this mean? Let's take a look at the PMBOK guide. In the guide, you will find over 45 processes that tell you how to execute various aspects on your project. For instance, how to create a risk management plan, how to control the schedule. The processes sometimes seem, well, all over the place and unconnected. Yet somehow you as the project manager will have to bring them all together. You have to be the conductor who stands in front of the orchestra of all these processes and tells them to play. This is what integration management will help you do. Understanding integration management is not difficult. The processes are easily understood and brought into relation with the rest of the PMBOK guide and your project. It is much more difficult to actually execute them during a project. And here are the 6 processes of project integration management. It all begins with develop project charter, which is the process of developing a document that formally authorizes the existence of a project and provides the project manager with the authority to apply organizational resources to project activities. Then we move on to develop project management plan. That's the process of defining, preparing, and coordinating all these subsidiary plans and integrating them into a comprehensive project management plan. And the third process is direct and manage project work. This is where we actually do what we say in the plan we are going to do. It's the process of leading and performing the work defined in the project management plan and implementing approved changes to achieve the project's objective. Next, we have monitor and control project work, which is the process of tracking, reviewing and reporting the progress to meet the performance objectives defined in the project management plan. But we also want to perform integrated change control, which is the process of reviewing all change requests, approving changes, and managing changes to deliverables, organizational process assets, project documents, and the project management plan, and then communicating their disposition. And of course, finally, at the end of the project, we want to close project or phase. This is the process of finalizing all activities across all of the project management process groups to formally complete a project or phase. Project Integration Management is the only knowledge area in the PMBOK guide that has a process in every single process group. As you can see here, Develop Project Charter, this is in the Initiating process group. Develop Project Management Plan, well, the plan in the world is the dead giveaway there. This is in the Planning process group. Direct and manage project work, that is the executing process group. Monitor and control project work, as well as perform integrated change control, they are both in the monitoring and controlling process group. And of course, close project or phase, that's in the closing process group. In regards to these project management processes, the project manager and the project management team will have to make decisions on a day-to-day basis in order to execute the project with the goal of delivering what was agreed upon. For instance, there may be competing objectives on the project. Maybe you have an objective about integrating a specific new technology into the result, but on the other hand, you had a slightly aggressive deadline. Here you will have to make the appropriate decisions on how much of this new technology can be integrated into the available schedule. There is no process in the PMBOK guide that tells you how to do this. You will find that the mechanics of project management are explained in the various processes, but the art of project management and how you get from your first day to your last day in order to achieve your goal, the art of that isn't. And while we're talking about the processes, for the exam, it's important to realize that you must perform all the processes outlined in the PMBOK guide. You cannot simply cut out a process here or there just because it looks like you don't need them on your project. Instead, the idea is that the project management team decides how much and to what depth each process will be used. For example, in many cases it's clear that there is a strong desire that a particular project result will be built in-house without the need for vendors. That doesn't mean that you can simply cut out project procurement management. You should at least do your due diligence and properly go through the plan procurement management process from project procurement management in order to make a proper make or buy decision. Once you have that decision, then you can decide how much or little of the remaining procurement processes are required on the project. There is another important note about the processes, and that is how they interact. If you look at the PMBOK guide, you might get the opinion that project management is a neat and orderly thing, but as soon as you get onto a real project, you'll see that it's not as clear-cut. Processes interact with each other in more ways than shown in the PMBOK guide. In the guide, it looks like this here. It looks like we have a nice jigsaw puzzle, but in real life, each project is like a town, with buildings and roads and buses and people and nightclubs and shops and cinemas, and all of them interact with each other in uncounted and sometimes unpredictable ways, and the PMBOK guide tries to make you aware of this. The third figure in most chapters about the PM processes is the data flow diagram, and it shows all processes and how they interact. But you must understand that not all process interactions and data flow among the processes are shown in that figure. And I think that you can also find a statement about process interactions in every knowledge area chapter. The statement says something like this: the processes may be presented here as unique and separate processes with defined interfaces, like our graphic here on the left-hand side, while in practice they intersect and interact in many more ways, like the town we're showing you here on the right. After all, The PMBOK guide is just a guide. It doesn't claim to contain every last bit of project management know-how. Let's move on and take a look at a few key concepts from project integration management that you'll need to know for the exam. Of course, we look at the details during the individual lessons of the appropriate processes. Right now, we're just going to go from one concept to the next to give you a high-level understanding, beginning with the fact that integration is a central activity in project management. You will have to consolidate and integrate many project management actions that are necessary to deliver the product. For example, you'll have to make decisions as to where you need to apply resources, and you will have to revisit these decisions almost daily. You manage stakeholder expectations and you integrate new needs into the project, and you will need to deliver the product into the ongoing operations of the organization, which is yet another aspect of integration. Almost the whole project comes together here. This makes integration a key activity, so you should definitely understand inputs, tools and techniques and outputs for each process, and not simply memorizing them, please, but understanding why we use them and what their purpose is. The first process in project integration management, and indeed quite often also the first process in any project that you do, is develop project charter. And the project charter is a very important document because the project charter is the document that formally authorizes a project. It presents the project manager with the authority to apply organizational resources to the project. In other words, you as the project manager, your name is in the charter, you're named in the charter, and based on this, you are now allowed to spend time and money on this project and probably even hire other people for it. Also important to know is the fact that the project manager should be assigned prior to the start of planning, and preferably as you are actually creating this charter here. And because this is such a very important project document that you must understand for the exam, we do have a separate lesson just on the project charter where we look at the details and help you understand it in depth. After the development of the charter, which is part of project initiation, follows the very large planning process. So why do we do all this planning? What is the goal of all of this planning? From a project point of view, the goal is to better define what we need to deliver, but also how we are going to deliver it. What we deliver is primarily defined in the project scope, but also in the budget, where we say how much it will cost, in the schedule, where we say when it will be done, and in the quality management plan, where we say at what grade we will be delivering the results. The how is defined in all our various other plans. For instance, the staffing management plan will tell you the processes that you will perform in order to put a team of specialists together that can deliver the what. It might say that we will primarily try to assign internal resources, and then we will look for appropriate consultants, and we will also need to employ 3 new engineers for project-specific research and design. At the end of the planning process group, we will have a solid understanding of our project and product thanks to all the plans that we have developed and that are integrated into the project management plan. So the what and the how is what we, plan in planning, and the project management plan is the output, or in some processes, an update to the already existing project management plan is the output. We have a separate lesson also for the project management plan because it's also quite an important document for you to understand. So for now, let me just say that the project management plan is not a single document. Instead, it integrates a number of subsidiary plans like the staffing management plan or the quality management plan, as well as other important documents for the project, and it's probably the single most important document on the project, and that of course makes it extremely important for the PMP exam. So much for the project management plan at this time. Another important cornerstone of integration are historical files. We also know these as the lessons learned files. The idea is that we integrate the lessons learned from past projects into the activities that we perform on our current project. Historical files or lessons learned are part of the organizational process assets, and here are some key points to remember in regards to lessons learned and historical files. And first of all, it's your responsibility as the project manager to hold lessons learned meetings and document project results for the future. And this is why this historical information and your job with it is often a focus on sample questions. That's because historical information is important and helpful input from other project managers regarding successes and failures on the project. It enables you to rely on best practices that have worked in the past. You can rely on this as a reference. Creating this historical information is an important output of the close project or phase process. As a matter of fact, it's the last one listed because it is one of the last things that you should do on the project. After all is said and done, you should document what has been said and what has been done. As part of the integrated change control process, the configuration management system and the change control system are two key areas to understand. We discussed them in not just one, but two separate lessons, so you can see that this is important and that you should understand their purpose. The configuration management system is the system in which you define what your final product will look like in specific and technical detail. For instance, if you build a house, the plans and drawings will be part of the configuration management system because they describe exactly what you will build. They show how your house will be configured. And the change control system is the set of procedures and processes that you need to apply in order to make a change. For instance, if you want to add another bathroom to the house, you will have to invoke this change control system in order to make the appropriate updates to the current configuration of your house. And this takes us seamlessly to the integrated change control system. This is also one of the major systems on a project because change is inevitable. At some point during the project, someone is going to want to make a change, either increase the scope or reduce the scope, or we find that our quality management processes don't work the way that we had envisioned, so we have to make a change to the actual process, and that's when you need the change control system. Without it, change will be rampant on the project and everyone will try to add or remove parts and nobody will be able to keep track of everything. It's quite simple at its core, really. If you want to make a change, fill in a form. This form will be reviewed and then either approved or denied. If it's approved, we will integrate it into the project, and if it's denied, we will give you a reason for denying it. And that's it in its very basic form. When it comes to change requests, they can be verbal, but should better be in writing. You can get these change requests from internal sources like your stakeholders or from external sources such as a government agency or new laws. That is why some change requests are mandatory, but nevertheless they have to go through the integrated change control system where their effect on the rest of the project will also be evaluated. For instance, a change in a law may result in added project complexity and increased cost for implementation, but your stakeholders may not be willing to pay this additional cost, and therefore the decision was made to cancel the project. That is why every change must be fed into the integrated change control system. And by the way, it's the same with emergency change requests. If there is an emergency, go ahead and implement the change right away to fix the problem and get the system moving again. But then, follow the appropriate procedures, and feed the change into the system for review. And finally, we have the closure activities. You'll see in the PMBOK guide there are only 2 processes in the closing process group. One is here in project integration management, close project or phase, and then we also have close procurements over in project procurement management. Close procurements is performed once for each of your contracts. And to make sure that you don't forget any steps to properly close it, you will rely on a checklist called the Contract Closure Procedures. And then close project or phase, on the other hand, is performed once for every project phase and once for the complete project. A lot of expert judgment is needed during this process to make sure that nothing gets forgotten and that the project or phase is closed according to all the relevant standards and procedures that we should be following on our project. So, what types of questions do we see in sample tests, in simulators, online or in books? Well, the simplest one that we have found asked, what does project integration management consist of? The answers, however, they weren't a list of the processes in the knowledge area, but they offered various concepts to select from. So you really must understand what the goal of the processes is and not just their names. You can expect questions that test your understanding of the various tools and techniques that are employed during integration. For example, which system will help you in project execution? And that would be the PMIS, the Project Management Information System. And yes, don't worry, we will look at that in other lessons here in Project Integration Management. Or you might be asked, which system helps keep the project scope under control? And that would of course be the integrated change control system. And as we have learned just a few slides back, the configuration management system is the place where your project's product is described in detail and updated, changed via the integrated change control system. As a general rule, questions on project integration management, they focus on the integrative nature of the processes, and they also test your understanding that you must follow the appropriate procedures in order to successfully complete the project. One of the students of the PM Prepcast said it like this: the PM Prepcast does spell out the concepts from the PMBOK guide really well, but what counts on PMP exam sample questions is how well you understand, interpret and analyze the situational questions based on the learned concepts and are able to decide which is the most appropriate answer. And that concludes our overview of project integration management. Before we go, here's another PMP exam tip for you, and this one is all about what if you fail the exam? What can you do? Well, let's start at the beginning. After the exam, you will be handed a score report, which will show you in which of the domains you were proficient, moderately proficient, or below proficient. That way, you can see in which of the domains you had problems and probably failed the exam. This is important information for you, so that you can prepare properly for next time. But if you believe that there was an actual mistake during your exam or on your score report, then you can challenge that result. PMI has an appeals procedure for this. PMI's certification program is administered and supervised, they write in the documentation, by the PMI Office of Certification Appeals at the Global Operations Center, and all challenges to the certification program are governed by the comprehensive and exclusive rules of the PMI Certification Governance Council Certifications Appeals Procedure. Yes, that's how they define it. The appeals procedure, by the way, is the only method to review all decisions made by the certification department regarding applications, eligibility, examinations, test administration and results, and other applications or testing-related certification issues, challenges, or complaints. Since you have not passed the exam on your first attempt, you may now retest. You are granted a 1-year eligibility period in which you can pass the PMP exam. During this period, you may take the exam up to 3 times. So plan your time carefully to leave enough time during this period to retake your exam if you need it. If you fail the exam 3 times within the 1-year period, you must wait 1 year from the date of your last exam that you took before you can reapply for the credential. There is, of course, a re-examination fee that you will have to pay when you take the exam for the 2nd or 3rd time. If you need this information, and I sincerely hope you never do, then please look into the PMP handbook to see the most current prices for the re-examination, as well as some more details regarding the certification appeals procedure. Well, and what is the best way not to fail? Here are some basic recommendations for you. Start by watching all the lessons of the Project Management Prepcast, and great, you're already doing that. Wonderful. Create yourself a sound study plan in which you define how much you will study every day. Follow your own plan, track your progress, and adjust when necessary. Take a lot of sample questions. Begin with the free ones that you find on the internet, but make really sure that they're based on the most current version of the PMBOK guide and for the latest PMP exam specifications. And then also get yourself an online exam simulator to really hunker down and take several complete 4-hour exams. And then you need to get 2 books. First, you need to get the PMBOK guide, and you want to study with it and go through the guide at least twice. And then you also want to get yourself a separate PMP exam preparation book and study for this book alongside reading the PMBOK guide and watching the lessons here. If you're not sure what PMP exam prep book to buy, well, then we have some recommendations for you. Simply go to pmprepcast.com/book, and that will take you to our page where we have recommendations for several of these exam preparation books. One of these, the first one from the left, by the way, is the one that I personally used when I got ready for my PMP exam, and I still recommend it as one of the best books out there. And with that, we have come to the end of this lesson. So it's time for Justine to say,
After a while, crocodile.
And of course, I say, until next time.